7, 8. And the time is... Well, back to it. Out. Out. Indeed. I'll have you now. Hopefully this should be enough just to get me to the city outskirts. Oh, I'll take that. Here it is, Nox's safe haven. Well, now that I'm here, time for one last broadcast. If you're listening, I made it. I'm at Raven Creek City entrance. If anyone missed my last broadcast, I'm done with Nox, and I'm gonna turn myself in. I know it hasn't been very long, and the fine for trespassing in here will be crazy high, but when you've got people from the government hunting you down, it's probably best to leave while you still can. It's only been a few hours since I left Rosewood, and I'm still looking over my shoulder. I'd say it's been a pleasure, but honestly, I've had no sleep since Rosewood. I'm gonna leave the radio on as I'm pulling up, just in case the military immediately open fire and... oh, bugger. Listeners, forget this whole message. So, my first time trying to get into Raven Creek wasn't going as planned. Not wanting to get myself trapped between a bunch of infected and some high fences, I decided that it was best to draw as many of the infected out using the horn from my car. Once most of the infected were out at the checkpoint, I grabbed the shotgun that I picked up from the road and ran inside. Had to look through a dozen lockers, but eventually I found some 12 gauge. Now I could actually begin fighting against this horde. It took way longer than expected to clear the infected, because it was suddenly 8 o'clock, and now the infected were moving much faster. After dealing with that last infected, I was low on ammunition as well as energy. Not wanting to risk going up against another horde, I got back in my car, drove near some trees just off the barricaded tunnel, and lied back to get some I forgot to mention. Over the radio I heard that there was this dark mist that was rolling over Nox repeatedly since the start of the outbreak. This mist, or whatever it was, had made the infected in the area change from your single walker into a running nightmare. The mist would also mess with any electronics that I'd have, which also included my car, so it had to restart that a couple of times too. Not wanting to risk a horde of World War Z-esque infected surrounding me, I backed off from the city outskirts and onto the empty road for one last night. It took almost the entire morning, but eventually the dark smoke rolled past. I was able to investigate the entrance to the city. Arriving inside, there was still the odd infected around, so after dealing with them, I was able to continue my investigation. Looking through some lockers, it would appear that whatever force was waiting here at this checkpoint had to leave in a hurry. There were still some guns, ammunition, and armour in crates, and on the tables in each tent as well. In one, I found an M9 pistol. It was clearly the better choice of firearm over the small revolver I was carrying, so after grabbing some spare mags and a box of rounds, I decided to check out the checkpoint's HQ. Empty. Checking one of the computers that the military left behind, it turns out that they had pushed further into the city due to overcrowding, which later led to a massive outbreak throughout the checkpoint. While I was relieved to know that not all hope was lost for a safe evacuation, it did mean that I would have to push through the remnants of the checkpoint in order to get to the city. Luckily, during my search for ammunition, I ended up finding some whiskey inside a medical tent. With that, I could make a Molotov cocktail and hopefully burn through the fence. With a lighter in hand, I threw the explosive. From the moment of impact, a wall of fire crept up the fence and engulfed it, creating an opening. But travelling to the city would have to wait, as it was late and the infected would be much more dangerous than usual. So, instead, I slipped into one of the medical tents nearby. There wasn't much to loot, so I took the time to eat and slap a suppressor that I found nearby onto my M9. And with that, I got some sleep, ready for my search into the city for help. Checking my body for bites. Nothing. But a single scratch. In normal cases, a scratch could cause not much harm. However, if scratched by an infected person, you have a 7% chance of getting infected. Seeing this close encounter as a sign to move on, I climbed through the fence, and I was on my way to the city. Checking the odd couple of cars on my way in, I somehow failed to notice that most of them were facing out and away from the city. If only I had caught on to that sooner. Finding some infected along the way, I didn't want to waste too many shots, so for this last infected, I used a switchblade instead, and... scratched again. At this point, it's almost like I'm trying to get infected. No. Not today. Not when I'm this close to getting out of here. Now that it was 9 AM, I would have to deal with much slower infected, and hopefully not have to deal with the risk of being scratched again. Not wanting to take any chances, I switched to my shotgun to keep the infected at barrel's length. Once that was empty and done for, I could finally test out the suppressed pistol I got. With that small group dealt with, the journey continues. Down the highway there must have been some kind of explosion because a large portion of the fence was gone on both sides. Perhaps this is why the military had to fall back further into the city. It would also explain why there's so many infected inside the highway, despite the high fences and barricades. Arriving at the tunnel, there was a fairly large barricade, blocking both roads inside. I would have to stop and deal with the infected that were following me before attempting to even break it down. Yet another scratch. I was either the luckiest or unluckiest person in Knox County today. After dealing with that, I reloaded the last of my shells into the shotgun and began putting down the infected that had been crowding inside the tunnel entrance. Okay, at this point the universe is trying to tell me to stop continuing my journey and just end it right here. With the shells from my shotgun completely depleted, I decided to leave it behind. With my lack of energy, I was struggling so much I couldn't even carry it anyways. Entering the tunnel, I got a close look at the barricade, and yep, there was no way I was going to climb that in my condition. And because of its size, I wouldn't be able to tear it down without more infected flooding in from the opening in that highway. I tried using another Molotov I made using the gas from some wrecks nearby, but that wasn't going to get me through anytime soon. So, with the last of my energy, I hid in the backseat of a nearby car and slept so as to regain some of my morale. When I awoke, night had completely fallen and some infected had found me, so, dealing with them, After which, I headed straight back to the tunnel to find that one of the service doors had been completely pried open, perhaps by the previous infected that were trying to find me. Picking up a new weapon, it was too dark for me to focus on anything in front of me, so I equipped my torch, and then I began walking into the narrow void of the service tunnels. As if fighting the infected was scary enough at night, now I had to do it in torchlight without enough room to even do a full swing. On one of the infected, I found a key. This would settle my worries of getting to the other end of the tunnel, only to find a locked door. Continuing on, I found yet another red hoodie and decided that it was probably best to have another layer of protection, in case I was jumped by another group of infected. It was at this point, swinging my arm had grown to the point that I had almost felt numb, and I was in need to take a breather at some point. Luckily for me, the next corridor had some emergency supply rooms. I was able to sit and catch my breath, drink, eat, and finally rest before descending back into the dark hallways. Moving on, I found what looked like the generator to the tunnel. The end where I started this walk from had a similar room, so was I more than halfway through? Would this claustrophobic nightmare soon end? Using the key I found, I was able to unlock the gate, and with some luck, this could lead to the nearest exit. Walking through one more hallway, I was soon following the sound of infected that were banging against the service hallway exit. Looking at my watch, it was now midnight, and I had reached my 20th day in Nox, and with some hope, my last day as well. That was when I saw the large group of infected, who were no doubt following the noises of me swinging a metal pipe onto some unknowing infected. Retreating back into the hallway, I opened my bag and readied my pistol. Through the door and seeing the oncoming horde, I mustered up what energy and courage I had left and ran for the city entrance. Weaving through the infected, the only thought that was going through my head was, if I ran fast enough, eventually the army would notice and begin firing at my pursuers. Any moment now, army. Any moment. And then... nothing. Arriving at the secondary checkpoint, it was empty. Not a soul was here. Not a living one, at least. With all hope retreating from my body, I was left with only unending thoughts of dread. Where was the army? Where were the doctors? Where was anybody?